Welcome everyone. It's been a while since we've done one of these, and yeah, it's a very appropriate time to be talking about technology changes. I know a lot of you started the year thinking strategically about the year ahead, so we wanted to kick off with a big one. So today we're going to be talking about infrastructure as a service, specifically from Lenovo with their TrueScale range. It's particularly topical for most customers even now. You'd think after all this time where we've been talking about our journeys to the cloud and hybrid clouds that some of this stuff might be old hat, but it really isn't. And I'll explain a little bit more about that as we go. In terms of what we've got planned today, I'll do a little bit of housekeeping first. You are in muted mode, so feel free to put questions in the chat. There'll be a question section at the end, and I'll try and go through some of them. We rarely get time to go through all of them, so I'll basically be picking a few of them. We'll do them now, and anything else we'll do later on, either directly with you or an email out. But certainly we'll make sure that all of your questions get answered, and you'll get the right level of contact with everybody that you need. Quick intros then. Obviously, many of you will know me. I'm Justin House, CTO for Bechtle UK. From my side, I've got next to me Martin Cowan, virtually next to me, Martin Cowan, who is our TrueScale manager, and he's going to be talking a lot about some of the commercial aspects and the reasonings behind the TrueScale portfolio. Obviously, this is a little bit more in depth on the Azure Stack HCI offering, and we are lucky enough to have Richard Young with us as well. Richard is author of a book, which we are actually, you might have seen the mails from us, the first 10 attendees will get a signed copy of that book. So if you logged in plenty of time and were one of the first 10, then congratulations, and we'll announce that to you via email later on. So yeah, quite an exciting lineup, if I do say so myself, not including me. The agenda is pretty straightforward. The first half is going to be devoted to some of the reasonings behind TrueScale, and then that will dovetail into TrueScale and Azure Stack HCI. But first, I want to kind of explain the reasonings behind us doing this webinar right now, and that's really our customers. All of our customers are still on a journey of some sort, whether they started that journey wanting to go all cloud, hybrid cloud. Some, even to this day, have done nothing in the cloud. But what we're seeing is the market's maturing, our offerings are maturing, and it is now much easier to do a cloud implementation or a hybrid cloud implementation and do it in a really simple manner. So yeah, we've seen people that haven't started that cloud journey because their workloads aren't right. That's always been a killer for many people. If they put their workload in the cloud, it gets very expensive if it's the wrong type of workload. TrueScale has an answer for that. There are others that started the cloud journey and thought that they'd reached the pinnacle of cloud and they're all cloud, and then suddenly realized that their workloads were aging. The business was moving to new workloads, and the old workloads were still important, but they don't want to pay cloud money for it. So where do they put them? What do they do? Do they do multi-cloud? Do they do hybrid cloud? Well, TrueScale has an answer for that. And then you've obviously got the bit in the middle, which is I have a bit of both. But why have two independent environments running, maybe with a bit of authentication that's shared between the two, but managing two different environments? Well, enter Azure Stack HCI. And let's not forget the financials of it as well. So a lot of people are fans of OpEx. It makes it very controllable and manageable. So again, we have options there. But the secret to it all is just, I mean, lots of people do OpEx, but TrueScale does it so simply that I think the customer experience is just that much better. So I'm going to hand over now to Martin, who's going to take you through some of the commercial aspects. Over to you, Martin.
Thanks very much, Richard. Appreciate the introduction. So as Richard mentioned, my name is Martin Cowan. I'm the business unit lead for TrueScale in Lenovo across EMEA, which is a really exciting role, to be honest. I've worked in consumption-based data center services for a number of years, and I think as Justin outlined, and and apologies because I'm going to repeat some of this, we see a general shift and an increasing shift towards subscription-based services. Business are using these because they find that in a lot of cases it's better suited in supporting their transformation strategies. So there's no doubt that the market's been going that way for a number of years, and it's really accelerating now. Absolutely, this started a number of years ago with public cloud and often a public cloud first strategy. And again, you know, customers are at different points in that. We've got some that haven't started, some that are just getting going, and others that have actually made quite a lot of progress and are now readjusting their strategy. And what they're looking at now is what's the right mix of platform for their workload. So they've matured into that and actually learned from some of the mistakes, some of the missteps, some of the experiences. And what we're seeing a lot of the time is that customers are landing on that hybrid model of a mixture of on and off-prem is delivering the best outcome for them. But what they want is really the aspects of the public cloud that they like, but for the workloads that are better suited to staying on premise. So things that, you know, they need more security over. Cost control is a great one as well. I think a lot of people, as they've gone into public cloud, have actually learned a lot about the cost control. And it absolutely still has its place for many customers, but really the reality maybe wasn't what they thought they were getting into. Performance is another issue around latency maybe, and what we see is also complexity. So that's an interesting one. As customers are running multi-cloud, that almost inevitably brings a level of complexity into organizations. So they're looking to offset that as much as possible. But because of this is why we're seeing such a huge growth in the as a service or the private cloud marketplace. So looking at some of the analyst numbers, IDC and Deloitte are predicting a year-on-year growth of between 25 and 30% for the on-premise as a service marketplace, and that's actually outstripping the growth rate of total cloud spend when you look at public and on-prem. So we can see that actually there is an adjustment now, and whilst obviously public cloud spend is huge, customers are very much falling into where I need to keep on-prem. This subscription-based service is what we're you know, what we really want to run with. So if we look at the aspects that I've seen customers really like and what they've benefited for, they fall into a number of categories. So there's a preference for as a service around the financial aspect. So customers often love the pay-as-you-go model of public cloud, the fact that it aligns the cost with usage. So you're really only taking cost for infrastructure services and software as you're using them in your business to generate services, push out services, bring in revenue. So there's a really nice move away from the kind of legacy capital investment in infrastructure where you're getting that return over investment over a long period. So you're bringing a lot more financial agility into it. It also gets customers out that cycle of technology refresh or helps them accelerate it. So rather than investing in assets and having to write them off over a number of years, this allows customers to really be in a constant upgrade cycle if that's what they want, but certainly to speed that up over how they've done it traditionally. So really take advantage of new technologies as they become available. And actually one of the biggest things is really that flexibility and scalability. So you know, capacity management is something that I've never come across a customer that really likes doing or you know, thinks they do a good job. So the as a service model really allows businesses to scale up and scale down. But actually I think the scale up is the really important thing, because what you need to do is meet your business demands and your customers' demands as quick as possible. So from that customer sat perspective, be able to deliver scale up services as they're needed without delay into the business. Some of the other aspects we've also seen is accounting preferences. So customers are looking at, actually, do I want to be owning assets now if I don't have to? I've got the opportunity to consume things as a service, to take it off the balance sheet. That's having, you know, positive impacts as well in terms of cash flow with the way customers are paying for it. One of the lovely things they like is the simplicity of the model. You know, you move towards a very simple P times Q consumption model. As Richard said, you know, we want to keep this easy for people to be able to consume. It retains the control. That's the important thing, because, you know, customers have decided for whatever reason that not all workloads are going to public. this keeps it on. And the strategy around IT spend. So I work with a lot of customers that are looking at, actually, if I move to this model, I can do more in year with my budget. So actually, you know, I'm starting to spread the cost of this infrastructure across a number of years rather than paying for it in a period. And I'll also take this opportunity to reduce the workload on my IT staff. So this is the interesting thing: as you move towards consuming as a service, you actually can offload many of the tasks that you would have, you know, traditionally have to do yourself onto the vendor that's providing those. And you know, you can see on the right hand side, out the Lenovo customer surveys, we see a strong preference now going towards this as a service model. So what is TrueScale? TrueScale is the umbrella under which Lenovo can provide all its products to our customers as a service. So that is everything from data center to edge to device. And really being able to do that from one solution, single contract, single provider, and one point of accountability, that gives us a really unique position in the marketplace, being able to cover such a broad portfolio. So where our customers really desire this, and you know, we could satisfy everything from, you know, data center to end user device under a single contract. So really powerful message, and seen as an incredibly important strategy to Lenovo. So the business is growing rapidly, and we're expanding the organization and the portfolio as we go. In terms of what it does, it's a very simple monthly pay-per-use model for consuming infrastructure, services, and software. So the unit price that we see wraps in the full service. So that would be Lenovo reactive and managed services throughout the life cycle of the contract, end-to-end support right through from deployment to retirement to refresh. So again, you know, we're looking at delivering this all as a service and taking the burden away from the customer. The monthly model, as I mentioned, which allows you to align those finances to the business demands. And the portfolio we have is great. So, you know, we have everything from IaaS for compute and storage, right across to turnkey on-premise solutions built with strategic partners such as VMware, Intel, Microsoft, which are allowing us to deliver real outcomes to our customers. So, in quick summary, this is the benefits that we see, and we're really seeing reinforced across the market from customers that are moving towards this model. So you get rid of your capital upfront costs. We're taking away cost and providing flexibility. You're getting the control and also that real transparency of cost. They typically fall into three categories here, which is cost, risk, and time, which are all really important drivers for customers. And if we look at the stats that we're seeing, commonly we're seeing customers come back and saying we get actually a 30 to 40% lower TCO when they move to an as a service model, 40 to 50% improvement in efficiencies over their IT services teams. So that's again, you know, going back to where they will offload some of the day-to-day management tasks onto the as a service provider like Lenovo, and that allows them to focus on the core activities. And really key, you know, 30% faster to address that deployment of extra capacity to be able to meet growing demands for their customers. So that was it for me. So what I'd like to do now is pass across to Richard Young, who'll take you through the TrueScale for Azure HCI offer in some more detail.
Thanks, Martin. So as Justin said at the beginning, I'm Richard Young. I'm a principal consultant within Lenovo Professional Services and author of the Azure Stack Hub Demystified book. What I've been working on most recently is a new offering under the TrueScale banner, which we announced at Tech World, which is TrueScale Hybrid Cloud based on Azure Stack HCI. What we do with this is we take the TrueScale infrastructure as a service that Martin has just gone through. So on the left-hand side, we have our typical TrueScale hardware as a service, where Lenovo will manage the physical kit, the data center infrastructure. We'll deploy it, we'll get it up and running, etc. And then we will be responsible and manage the physical compute and storage. Typically, we're only interested in the hardware layer. So we'll monitor, manage, and update anything on the hardware layer, including kind of firmware and drivers, etc. With TrueScale Hybrid Cloud with Microsoft, we're taking this a stage further, and we're able to move up the stack and manage more, which means the customers are free then to concentrate on their day job rather than keeping the lights on. So as well as looking after doing all the hardware monitoring and the physical side of it, we're now moving into the platform. So we're looking at the virtual networking, we're looking at the hypervisor, we're looking at the image management and the actual Azure Stack HCI OS itself, and we manage and maintain that again. So that will mean that any updates to the underlying Azure Stack HCI platform is performed and managed by Lenovo. As part of this offering, we're also looking at introducing a new metering technology. So the standard TrueScale that's out there at the moment, the typical hardware as a service, actually does the consumption based on power metering. So the more workload that's running on a server, the more power it draws from the rack, and you're charged accordingly. Each server effectively has a power envelope. So it has a minimum power when it's just switched on, sat there doing nothing, and a maximum power when it's flat out running 100%, and that's our power envelope. So at the moment for TrueScale, and this will be the case for the first release of the TrueScale with Microsoft, is it's done on this power consumption. What we're finding is a lot of customers need to be able to cross-charge their clients, and typically they would be charging their customers on the number of virtual machines, the number of vCPUs that they're using, the actual workload that's running. So we've initiated a Project Zero project, which is going to run across all of the TrueScale, not just Microsoft, but for the Microsoft one. What this will allow us to do is to actually pull the allocation data through from the node. So we won't just be monitoring how much power is being drawn by each of the servers, etc. We'll then be able to pull the total number of eCPUs that are available, the total memory, the total storage that's available within the cluster. We can then see what's been allocated and to whom, which means we're then being able to give our customers the ability to see this information, which makes their life easier when they come to try and cross-charge that across to their customers. So they'll be able to split it by virtual machine, by CPUs, etc. And we'll have this available as a REST API, so they can pull that information themselves direct from the portal to then generate their own bills. So the TrueScale hybrid cloud with Microsoft Azure Stack HCI is the same as our standard TrueScale offering, so it allows us to scale up. Certainly in the initial release of this, we're pointing towards the kind of robo and branch office with 2-3 nodes. That way there's no network switching required because it's all direct attached. It's an Azure service, so it's secure. It gives them the benefits of it being in their data center behind their own firewall. They can use their existing security controls, but then also gives you the flexibility to be able to push out into the public Azure. Because it's an Azure service, it gives you the ability to run virtualized workloads. You can run containers, you can run Kubernetes, for example, you can do DevOps. And because it's Microsoft Azure, you can control it either through Windows Admin Center or through the Azure portal, and it's fully managed. We look after everything, and it's monitored 24/7. We have service desks, etc., all there ready to go, 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So the solution is based on the Lenovo ThinkAgile MX, which is available today, and there's several different models available for it. It comes with a pre-installed Azure Stack HCI operating system. Now, the advantage of that is because it's an Azure service, it's that portion is charged by Microsoft. I think the current Azure service pricing is about $10 per core per month, but that's it. Then there's no additional virtualization or storage license required, like there would be for a Nutanix or a VMware, for example. To run Windows workload, you're fully licensed. As soon as you've bought your Azure Stack HCI solution, you're ready to go. And as I say, for this, we're concentrating on the 2-node robo solutions, potentially up to 3 nodes, and specifically looking based on the SE350. you get your single point of contact, you get your Think Agile Advantage support, you get your deployment services all bundled in with one part number, and you're ready to go. It's worth noting that the new version of Azure Stack HCI has evolved. It is a new operating system. It is a true Azure operating system. It's no longer a Windows Server platform, although there are still Windows Server. You've got Windows Server 2022, but it is a dedicated Azure operating system designed to run virtualized workload. And from within the platform, it gives you direct access to Azure services out of the box without having to do anything. And as I say, you can run it and manage it either through Windows Admin Center, which is on premise, or through the Azure portal. And it gives you access to Azure services such as Azure Arc, Backup, File Sync, Monitor, Network Adapter, Security Center, Site Recovery. You get your update management. You can do Kubernetes. And there's new ones coming on all the time. And because it's subscription based, as those new services become available, when the server is updated, you get access to those services. So for example, in preview at the moment, in the latest release of Azure Stack HCI, you have access to SQL services, app services, functions, logic apps, and Azure Virtual Desktop, all from within Azure Stack HCI. And as I say, as and when new services are added into the platform, you'll see them straight away as soon as the update has been applied. So as I say, for this release of the Microsoft TrueScale, we're looking at the 2-node clusters. It is effectively what used to be Windows Storage Space Direct, but it is different. It's no longer Hyper-V, so things like live migration, etc., work differently within this OS. It is a brand new OS built from the ground up. As it's an Azure subscription, then things like the witness, etc., can be put in the cloud, which is where most of our customers are doing it. Actually, if it's a 2-node cluster, you don't actually need a witness. Microsoft recommend it, but you don't necessarily need it. You get your resiliency because you get your two-way mirror, so it takes the data gets written to both servers at the same time, which means you can lose a single node. In fact, you can lose a single node and a drive in the other node and still continue to run quite happily. There's no network apart from the management switch to connect you to your network. All storage traffic goes direct attached, so it's really, really quick. So in the initial release, we have gone with 3 t-shirt sizes based on the MX SE350, which is our edge server, because as I say, we're pointing towards the robo and the branch office piece. There's one part number that gets you the hardware, the OS, the support, all of the installation services, the management, deployment, configuration, etc., all included in the cost, and it's all on a monthly subscription per node price. So that's all I had. So I don't know, Justin, if you've got any questions that have come in, or
Indeed we do. There is a few. First off, I will personally say I love how simple TrueScale is. I mean, I know this is looking back a little bit, but if some of us went into the last kind of period with lockdowns and furloughs, and their business gets minimized and their power utilization gets minimized, wouldn't it have been nice if the cost got minimized as well? And I guess TrueScale certainly does some of that. So I think that's actually quite an interesting fact, but also for a lot of organizations out there, that power way of doing it is really good. You take, for instance, a typical, seasonal businesses where, they'll have their peaks and their troughs. That power utilization measurement is a really, really powerful thing. But for those of us that have just become more 24-hour orientated, with people working at any time of the day remotely, and it always amazes me the times of day some of my employees are up and working, and admirable as well. But being able to do it via measuring it in different ways from a workload perspective is also very handy. So yeah, I like how simple the TrueScale is, and that's why I think it's important that we highlight it with our customers. Moving on to the questions, there are a couple of questions which I think are good here, so I'm going to pick a few of them out. I'll start with this one. Can't I just do this with Windows standard servers? Yeah, shall we start with that one? Who wants to take that one?
I'll pick that one up. Short answer is, well, yes, but the advantage you get with using the Azure Stack HCI OS is all of the integration and being able to move workload between on-premise and the cloud is built in. It's there for you. Yes, you could do it with a standard Windows server. So you could run Windows Server 2022. You could then install Hyper-V and Failover Cluster Manager to give you your clustering. You can then install Storage Space Direct to do your storage. You can then join the two together. You would then have to Arc enable the server to then be able to connect it to the public cloud. You would then have to go and connect each of the services that you wanted to use separately. That's a lot of work when Azure Stack HCI does that all for you.
Wow, that's awesome. I think that kind of leads nicely on to the next question as well, which is actually about moving workloads. So it's, can I move workloads live between on-premise and cloud?
So
Richard?
because Azure Stack HCI is an Azure operating system, you can manage it through the Azure portal, which means you can explicitly say, okay, I have this virtual machine which is currently running on node 1 of my Azure Stack HCI. I now want to run it in UK South. It's just a case of right click, move, and then you specify where you want to run it. And again, you get that out of the box. And in fact, with Arc, you don't even necessarily have to run it in Azure. You could go and run it in AWS, or you could go and run it in Google Cloud, or you could go and run it on a Hyper-V server running in your data center, or a VMware. Arc, it gives you that flexibility to run the workload wherever you need to.
Okay, well, let's stick with the theme then, because I think there is actually another question, which is, can I do this with anything other than Azure Stack HCI? Martin, do you fancy talking a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's fine. I'll pick that up and give Richard a break from answering the questions. That's fine. Yeah, absolutely. Within the TrueScale portfolio, what we're looking to do is give our customers options. So I touched on it very briefly in my section, but we have the ability for customers where they want to consume simple infrastructure as a service. So across the compute or the storage range from Lenovo. What we're doing is we're looking at again giving customers options, and I think you covered it very nicely there, Justin, in terms of power metering is good for certain things. So what we're trying to do is give our customers options of how they consume that. So around the server, we look at the power metering. Storage is written data. But I mentioned that we have these kind of turnkey solutions like Microsoft Azure HCI. We also have VMware HCI. So for where our customers are looking for the ability to consume virtual machines on VMware VCF, again, with offloading the management, we have a Deloitte managed cloud offering where we partner with Deloitte, where they provide their open cloud solutions as well. So that's really when you're starting to get into the multi-cloud. And again, we're expanding all the time. Silicon as a service is a really interesting one. And of course, we're going up the stack right in our portfolio. So we've got high performance compute, SAP, all those kind of things as well. So really anything that you would like to, use a Lenovo infrastructure solution to provide to the business, then we can provide that through TrueScale.
Perfect. Thanks, Martin. I think I just want to add a few things on top of what's already been discussed, because the platform's great. It's simple. Lenovo have a lot to offer. I think some of the questions I also hear from some of our customers is still around knowing where to put the right workloads. So let's not forget, Bechtle has a whole range of assessment services to offer you. And that includes infrastructure optimization, IT strategy reviews. We can basically take a look at how you're running your estate and provide you with reports on how to optimize it further. So for some people, that is to start their journey into a hybrid cloud environment. Others, that's just about adjusting their costs down. So feel free to engage with Bechtle, your account manager at Bechtle. From my perspective, I think I've covered off everything we want to cover off today. So with that in mind, I just wanted to say also thank you to Richard and Martin. We're also going to publish this video up on our YouTube page, so feel free to go on there, and don't be afraid to subscribe as well. You'll see more webinars coming your direction around hybrid cloud implementations and some of our Lenovo offerings in the not too distant future. But for now, I'm just going to leave you to the rest of your days. Enjoy your evenings, and thank you for attending.